Welcome to the party. I'm Sam Ekstrom of Locked On Sports Minnesota. Josh Dobbs has taken me higher to a place with golden streets.
What's up? I'm Luke Braun from Locked On Vikings. And the Vikings have gone back to their roots, which is making me question what football is.
Hey, this is Arif with the Wide Left Substack. Josh Dobbs and Sam Ekstrom have proven that it's not good to be over-prepared. Also, no reason to have hair. You're good.
What's up, y'all? Luke Inman on Twitter, at Luke_Spinman. Honored to be on the football party. Introduce myself to everyone. Excited for a tremendous show. It's going to be a total team effort today, guys.
Big show today. It's the Minnesota football party. Let's do it.
Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. It's time for the Minnesota football party.
Welcome in Monday edition of the Minnesota football party. Thank you so much for joining us on a surprising victory Monday after Josh Dobbs leads the Minnesota Vikings to a come-from-behind victory over the Atlanta Falcons. We are going to talk about every element of that thrilling win. We'll talk about the QB conundrum going forward and the injury issues that struck yesterday. You've met the Lukes. You've met Arif, Hasan, and I am Sam Ekstrom, and we thank you for watching us on YouTube, on Locked On Sports Minnesota, on audio, the Locked On Vikings feed, wherever you get your podcasts, and we are also part of the rotation in the 24/7 YouTube live stream that you can find here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. Get your favorite teams night and day. And if you missed it, the instant reaction to the Minnesota Vikings win yesterday, the Locked On Vikings postcast, has been vastly viewed. We appreciate all of you for watching that, and I will go a level deeper today on the football party, which is brought to you by LinkedIn, helping you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Josh Dobbs is the hero. He runs for a touchdown. He throws for a go-ahead touchdown in cold-blooded fashion. Arif, Hasan, let's start with you. Josh Dobbs is magnificent.
That's my prompt. That's what I'm working on.
Is it a question or?
Yeah.
It is a statement of fact. Deal with it.
Yeah, I can't.
PSF told me.
It's a statement of fact, but I can't disagree with that. That's, no, I think that what's crazy about this, and I think Luke, of all people, captured this in his intro when he talked about how it breaks his understanding of football, is how precise and in-depth, like, people often don't have an understanding of the type of precision that goes into an install into football. I mean, receivers will lose their place on the depth chart for being a yard off their route when they're running a route. In fact, one of the reasons that the fourth down play against the New York Giants in the playoffs may have gone awry is that KJ Osborne may have been running his route at the wrong depth, right? It's a really critical element of how, that play works out. And that is just one detail. It is ridiculously detail-oriented football, and the Vikings in particular are oriented around a quarterback who is remarkably detail-oriented, who has an extraordinary amount of knowledge on the playbook. And Joshua Dobbs not only does not know the names of the plays, he does not know the names of the players. What an incredible win.
Unbelievable.
Insane. And hearing Kevin O'Connell talk about teaching him concepts on the fly, walking him through the 2-minute drive in his headset, that's insane level, mythic stuff. Luke Braun, I mean, the highs and the lows of Josh Dobbs, it was ugly. And I was empathizing with Iowa football fans on Twitter. This must be what it's like being an Iowa football fan with that offense in the first half. And then there was just a spark. And I credit the defense for keeping the Vikings within shouting distance, because at 11-3, it could have been so much worse. And suddenly you're down by 1 at halftime, and it's a whole new ballgame.
Yeah, I think 3 of the first 4 drives that Josh Dobbs had were like catastrophic.
They were
like
bad.
a safety, and then the strip sack fumble.
Yeah.
And then to start the third quarter, he had another fumble, and you're going, okay, this guy might not be able to do it. And then he did.
All right, back it in.
The Brad Childress run pass wasn't really serving him very well.
Musgrave.
Yeah, it felt like, man, they just have he just doesn't know anything, so they just kind of have to only run the ball. Oh, this is going to be like a really excruciating thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that he just didn't know a lot of the pass concepts that he was running. Like, he just didn't know what he was looking at, and it was like, okay, we'll just run for a touchdown, and then just did that. It's like, okay, I guess that works. Like, it feels like that was cool. It'll never happen again. Like,
yeah, I don't know if you saw,
that was awesome.
JT O'Sullivan tweeted out like 10 minutes before we started recording, like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. This is crazy.
Everybody, like Ted Wynn said that. Kurt Warner's like, he had no idea what was going on. That rocks.
Hey, can I just point out one little small fact? There's so many variables to go over, but a huge piece of the puzzle that nobody's talking about that I was thinking about anyways. Dobbs comes in for Hall, right? All right. So who's the backup to Dobbs at that point? And they said it on the broadcast. Cam Akers?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then Cam Akers goes out, unfortunately now for the season. So then who would be the backup if Dobbs went down or even just missed a series or a play or two? Like, who are we going to? Ryan Wright? I mean, I'm thinking, okay,
he's thrown a pass before.
Ryan Wright has thrown more passes.
Ryan Wright did play quarterback in high school.
Yeah, Jordan Addison.
Jordan Addison to me. Yeah.
And
how crazy
I believe
is that
the reason
scenario?
that Cam Akers was chosen was because he played quarterback in high school, and I guess he has a pretty decent arm. They did try to get him to throw the ball, but he didn't
try to get him to throw. Yeah, why not?
Who threw the trick play to Addison that didn't count?
I think it was Akers. Was it? Maybe
it was
Powell?
Akers. Okay, because that was a dime. Must have been Akers. That's a great little hidden gem in that game that the Vikings had no other quarterback. They chose not to bring a third. Their emergency guy gets knocked out. That's a great point, Inman. And so it's literally all on Dobbs' shoulders. The mobility, man. Like, I don't want to get too captured by the moment of saying, wow, it's got to be a mobile quarterback now going forward. But it does mitigate a lot of stuff. Like when the run pass thing, was going wrong and you're stuck in 3rd and 10, he gets you out of it. He gets you out of jams. And nerdy stat of the day coming later from me about sort of how Dobbs made up for his own foibles with his own mobility and how he sort of made amends for the mistakes early on. But what a journey, man. I mean, back to you, Inman. Like the 2-minute drive, so well executed on so many levels, but also the 4th down run is the play that's going to stand out most from this game for me. How about you? What are the plays that will last in your mind?
Yeah, certainly that's at the top of the mountain there for sure. I mean, I can't wait to see the PFF running grades come out and see how many broken tackles and yards after contact he put up, because you look at the stat sheet after that game and you're just buzzing. You're on an ultimate high as a Viking fan. You look at the stat sheet, only 7 carries for 66 yards. That felt like watching Michael Vick go off against us in 2002 in the Dome. Like, that was insane, man. And there's so many things to go over again, and I know we'll get to a lot of it, but it's easy to jump to, God, it's almost like he single-handedly won the game. You can't say that, though. The defense did so many things. There were so many individual performances. And I think, too, I've heard some people kind of mention this fact that maybe a knee-jerk reaction to say, oh, my gosh, you just came in on the fly. They were drawing plays up in the sand. Maybe training camp and preseason doesn't matter much, but you got to remember, and maybe this gets, a little overlooked, but Dobbs was a starting quarterback the last 8 weeks of the season, right? So I think that certainly helped him kind of get into a little bit faster rhythm on the fly, a little bit easier, as opposed to trading for a true backup as well. That's the highs. The athleticism is just unbelievable. The lows, obviously, you want to see him develop as a passer a little bit more. I got one play in my mind specifically. I want to say they were at Atlanta's 25, maybe 30. Had Hawkinson running up the boundary. You're thinking, man, Kirk Cousins in that game. He's slinging that ball. That's a touchdown. He ends up converting with his feet. But I think the worry is, and this is a well-known fact, that, you're going to get more short-term, quicker wins with the athleticism, but long-term, you worry about any quarterback who lives and dies with his feet. I mean, there's just a track record with those kind of guys.
The second someone prepares for that.
Absolutely.
Like Atlanta was not prepared for what they got, which like, of course they weren't. I don't think the Vikings were prepared to do what they did either.
Right.
Like,
Right. It's such a short list
fairness,
of guys.
Atlanta should have prepared for a scrambling quarterback. I mean,
either way.
Well, they knocked the first one out in 2 drives.
So I mean, there's that. Obviously, the speed element was a little bit different. How that got executed was a little bit different. I think for me, aside from the standout plays already mentioned, I mean, the 4th down run, the 3rd down run, the go-ahead touchdown, all of those were amazing.
Cam Akers' block was the one I was going to say.
Yeah.
Cam Akers lighting the hell out of a D tackle.
So incredible. Great. Yeah. I like the Jordan Addison sideline catch.
Oh,
right?
yeah, Jesus.
Dot. And then also, what in the world? Oh, my God, Jordan Addison.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, that was really so good.
Sick. Yeah.
It was incredible.
The Dobbs inability to hang on to the ball, bad. Put the ball on the ground 3 times. Other than that, and Inman, you mentioned a throw. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln.
The play, Mrs. Lincoln.
Yeah. But seriously, were you his ability to throw the ball on target with at least a degree of decisiveness, I thought was impressive.
Dude, the Tristan Jackson 2-point conversion, you see the other angle of that, and like there's no place to put that ball except where he put it. A little bit low and away from
he goes to Tristan Jackson right after Jackson loses a contested catch.
Correct.
Earlier in that drive on an incredible throw, by the way. Which you don't like. That's not necessary, and maybe he didn't even process it. But you always like to see it's not impacting him at all. He's just the throw is open. He's going for it, and it was a great throw. Yeah.
I profiled Dobbs as kind of a non-risk taker, and man, was I wrong. Like at least yesterday, so many of his throws.
You didn't listen to Luke and I at all.
Were contested. No, obviously, obviously I didn't, because I didn't perceive that in what I knew about Dobbs, and he was throwing in tight windows, and in fact, kind of hung a couple receivers out to dry. The Osborne concussion probably doesn't happen if that's a little more accurately thrown ball. And then there was the one play, if you remember this, where he threaded it into Addison, who got his hands on it, got jarred loose by friendly
punched
fire
in the face. Yeah.
But there was also Falcon on Falcon crime there, where a guy it was a Sendejo. He knocked his own teammate out.
It was Jesse Bates. Coming down.
He and if that had hit Addison, he might have broken in half. But I want your guys' take, honestly, on his ability to throw the football, because I thought it was above average. Braun, what do you think?
I think it's kind of the same thing I saw from the Cardinals tape, where it's okay, but it's not consistent. There were a couple balls that were behind where I thought they should have been. I think the way that he sets his feet is just not that precise, but it's functional, I guess. It's certainly not like the worst ball placement you'll ever see, but it's not going to be consistently. It's not going to be like Kirk, I guess. We're used to pretty good ball placement.
Yeah, and I thought one thing that we had mentioned was that, he throws a really high rate of contested catches or contested targets. I think he's like a 5th going into the game or something like that. And then one thing that Luke had mentioned is that sometimes the way that he throws creates contested targets when they didn't need to be contested. Yeah, we saw that in this game. When you're throwing behind someone on the move, it'll create an opportunity for an opponent to come in.
The one where KJ got knocked out is a good example of that. Yeah. Where that if that were lower and it was just put right on him, he could have protected himself. Yeah. But he had to kind of go up and contort for it, and then he was kind of just
and that's a kind of precision that we've come used to seeing from somebody like Kirk, right? Where it's not just figuring out which receiver to throw it to, it's also figuring out within the timing and the context of the rest of the defense and what direction people are moving in, how to put the ball in a place that either only the receiver can get to it or protects the receiver, or ideally both if at all possible. And I don't know that we're going to be seeing a lot of that going forward, and so I just kind of have to prepare for that, and we saw that in this game.
Yeah, and remember, too, go through all the offenses Dobbs has been on. And by the way, I wasn't too surprised either, sitting down watching a bunch of 3:00 West Coast Arizona games after the Vikings games, after we do the postcast. I watched this guy beat the Cowboys in week 2 this year. So I wasn't too surprised in his style of play. But I go back and I think about, this is easily, when healthy, and we'll get into, is JJ going to be back and how long is KJ Osborne going to be out? But when healthy, this is easily the best he's ever had when it comes to weapons he's got to play with. And more importantly, I think, is the coaches. Kevin O'Connell is going to start to cater things and plan things around him, because you think back, okay, Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin, defensive coach, Tennessee, Vrabel, defensive coach, Arizona, Shane Steichen, defensive coach, KOC, offensive coach, former quarterback in the NFL. He's never had that. So that should excite some Vikings fans as well for the long-term big picture the rest of the season.
Yeah, let's talk about sort of the QB conundrum now going forward. If Hall does get cleared within the next 2 weeks, let's say, how do they decide who the quarterback's going to be? That, and we'll also talk about the injuries and the defense. But first, a word from LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a proud partner of today's show. These days, every new potential hire feels like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And you want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They're helping you find the right people for your team faster and for free. I really like the screening questions that they offer. It makes it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience. You can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Nobody likes sifting through a thick stack of resumes. That's not efficient. That's difficult. And in a small business, you don't often have the manpower to get all that done and vet all of those. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We should discuss the two drives of Jaren Hall, what we saw there, and how that plays into what we need to see going forward from Josh Dobbs to maintain this job. Now, I'm of the opinion that even if cleared, Jaren Hall will not start on Sunday. That seems to be the league-wide precedent, and I believe the Falcons were in the exact same situation with Ritter, that he could have played, but almost every team universally holding guys out for a week with a concussion. So we give Dobbs the New Orleans game. After that, is Jaren Hall back in the mix to be a starter? Or have these guys now reversed where Dobbs gets the first crack and the chance to keep the job ahead of Jaren Hall? Is this kind of a QB almost by committee going forward based on who has the hot hand? How do you think the Vikings should handle this, Luke? Braun?
So I think the Saints game is going to drive that more than this game did. As cool as this game was, it's very clearly not a sustainable, like you can't live like this, not knowing the plays, right? Like you can't live like that. But now Josh Dobbs has a week to learn the offense, a week to be the presumed starter, right? Assuming you're right about how they handle Jaren Hall and concussion protocol. If he can go out against the Saints, which is also a pretty good defense, know the plays and ball out there, then he can take the job from Jaren Hall. Sure, he's got every opportunity to do that. But I think that the familiarity that Jaren Hall showed, even in just a couple of plays, showed a grasp of the playbook that is comfortable. Like he showed that he knows what he can do. And then it just comes down to, his natural limits as a quarterback that he had at BYU as well. But the I'm new to this factor seems to be gone. And it won't be gone with Josh Dobbs, even after a week, unless he can really kind of go out there and show something that Jaren Hall doesn't have. Probably an ability to protect the football, which is not Josh Dobbs. That's kind of what I want to see him go out. No turnovers, oops, that was almost a turnover. But still being able to drive the offense. I think if you do that, then sure. But the answer right now is not enough info, right? It's Josh Dobbs has an opportunity to take the job. Let's see if he can do it.
Yeah. It's like how Joe Webb got eventually overexposed. He just got too many chances and proved that he, couldn't cut it as a quarterback. I think Dobbs probably has more.
Yeah, they get tape on you, and now what do we do, right?
Yeah.
Saints are going to be spying. They're going to be
fun
containing.
Fun in small sample sizes, but well, Arif, how do you see this playing out now with Dobbs presumably getting this game? Is there a threshold, do you think, that he has to meet to keep that job then going forward?
Yeah, just of note, I mean, I thought Jaren Hall played pretty well. He was actually more efficient than Dobbs in almost any measure that you would use, whether it's yards per attempt, passer rating, completion rate, EPA per play when excluding turnovers, which Josh Dobbs ranks pretty high in once you exclude turnovers, it turns out. But even then, Jaren Hall ranked pretty high. Of course, that occurs in 8 action plays, right? 2 runs, 6 passes.
That's basically a one wheel route to Alexander Madison fueling that.
Sure.
Right.
But like I thought that Hall looked fine, right? So it really is just a question of how he looks against New Orleans. What that threshold is, I don't know, because I think that I don't think it should be a win or a loss. That's very clearly not how Kevin O'Connell operates, the way that he talks about these things. In fact, he really wanted to stress how proud he was of the process they used. And, he was like, the result was nice, but, the whole point is that the results are kind of a byproduct of a good process, et cetera. And he kept on emphasizing that. So obviously it's not, whether or not it's a win or a loss, but it's whether or not they feel comfortable with his ability to manage that offense going forward, because this defense, it's no longer like the defense is coming into its own. The defense is like good now. Obviously there were 2 drives against Atlanta where the defense didn't, hold up its end of the bargain, I guess. I don't know. I don't want to overemphasize that fact. They did really well. Yeah. But the defense is good now. We should treat it like it's a good defense. So with that in mind, a quarterback that can kind of maintain an even keel, keep things going, that's the one you want. I don't think that you're in a spot where you want a high variance quarterback. There are a lot of teams that are in a spot where you want a high variance quarterback, where you want a quarterback that is going to take risks and make big plays. And the other side of that is you're going to have a little bit of problems with ball security, have a little bit of problems with 3 and outs and stuff like that, because you're taking big risks. Here, I think the Vikings are in a spot where they don't have to do that. They have to, they want to maintain good field position, because once they're in an advantageous position with a consistent quarterback, they'll get some points on the board and that'll help them win games. That's kind of where they are. So it's really whatever quarterback allows them to kind of maintain, stay on schedule, right? And that, I think, is the threshold. Are you comfortable with Dobbs? You don't know what you have in Jaren Hall, right? So it's really just a question of if you're comfortable with Dobbs. I don't think you go all in on Jaren Hall after 1 or 2 bad games with Dobbs or something like that. I think that if Dobbs, looks fine against New Orleans, the job is his until you're no longer confident that he can maintain that offense.
And you don't want to play that switcheroo game too many times. You do probably want to
make a choice and stick with it, whichever one.
Give it a little time to percolate. I mean, speaking of high variance, I thought Dobbs was like budget Jameis Winston in that game. Like, it was as high variance as you could get with the giveaways, then the plays he made. It was wildly fun to watch and unpredictable. But Luke Inman, let me give you a word on this. How would you decide your quarterback going forward?
Not too much to add. I think Luke and Arif are right. Kind of depends on what the interim next week versus the Saints, right? And so I'm just kind of spitballing because I don't think there is a finite specific answer yet. We don't have enough information. I think we should all be hopeful and encouraged about what we saw in Jaren Hall's 11 snaps. He did look comfortable, and more importantly, I'm not on the sideline, I'm not in the huddle, but it did look like he was in command of the offense, which is what you want to see. But assuming Dobbs continues to show progression and development every week, unless you want people rioting outside TCO, I think it's now Dobbs' job to lose, because after a game like that and what he did and how he did it, I think the Dobbs bandwagon now is real. There's kind of a mystique and a magic and some momentum building now around what you have. And I think Arif's right. You ride that out as long as he's giving you a competitive chance and not turning the ball over. I think that's the big bugaboo, the big wild card there, because he has been prone to do that. 10 turnovers now with the 2 he added yesterday. That's something that you just can't ignore, so that's kind of a maybe, I guess. But, as long as he's showing you that he's adapting to the playbook and the offense and given, his IQ and background, I don't think that'll be an issue. But I think, unfortunately, for now, Jaren Hall And again, he's only a rookie, but for now, it feels like maybe he got Wally pipped, right, in the short interim period over this next month or two. I think it's definitely Dobbs' job to lose.
Postcast yesterday, amazing engagement. We probably had over 100 comments, and I read them, and I can already see the future, you guys. I think this is a fair assessment of what we're going to deal with in about February. Dobbs is going to go about 5-4. They're going to make the playoffs, probably lose, but there is going to be a legitimate conversation in 3 months. Dobbs is going to be Keenum, right? Like the guy that comes in, a little bit of a flash in the pan, expiring contract, cheap deal. You can probably get him affordably. People will lobby for Dobbs. People will lobby for Cousins. People will lobby for a first-round quarterback. And we are back at the decision desk 5 years later after having the big decision between Keenum and Teddy and Bradford or Cousins. It's going to be there's going to be another decision. I can already see the future. Talk me off the ledge, someone, because I already sense that this is the way it's going to go if Dobbs just plays 500 football the rest of the way.
Oh, well,
are you just now realizing that we're going to have quarterback debates this offseason?
Yeah, get ready.
But now there's actual faces to the ambiguity.
Well, of the the three quarterbacks right now, Cousins, Dobbs, Hall, for sure Hall's the only one under contract, so he's going to get a chance to compete, whether it's sometime again, maybe even this year if the Dobbs magic loses its luster, but next year in training camp, whatever happens this offseason, he could be one of the guys in that mix for sure. So yeah, there is a lot of options and different variables going on.
Yeah. Or is it one of those deals where Dobbs gets paid like Keenum did with Denver and someone makes him their starter? It's like this could open up a lot of doors of confusion for the Minnesota Vikings. Braun, is that something that you'd lose sleep about, or am I just a crazy person?
Lose sleep? No, it'd be an interesting debate, but we have 8 more games of data that are going to drive that more than this one.
I hope so that's maddening and as inscrutable as this one.
Yeah, well, it's the Vikings. They will be.
Yeah.
You don't have to hope for that. That's a guarantee. Constantly inscrutable. That is the definition of the Vikings. That's a problem for February, Luke. So we'll check back in there.
Arif, am I crazy?
Well, I mean, I think you're crazy to not want it. I think that's
it's interesting.
Embrace it, man.
Embrace it.
Right? QBs. And then compare all that with the college
question.
QBs.
Yeah, let me just condense the question. Could Josh Dobbs play his way into quarterback of the future conversation for the Vikings?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think he will, but 100% he could do it. The biggest concern is if the games are like, I mean, they're not going to be like this. I shouldn't. But if the games are, really high variance and we're in the Case Keenum zone, right? If we're in a spot where it's like, hey, they won a lot of games and that was pretty flashy and it was a Minneapolis miracle. What should we do? And the Vikings were right to be like, that was all luck.
It's not going to keep happening.
That's not that. Nope. And like the way that they managed that, they ended up with Kirk Cousins. You can say that was the bad decision or whatever. Fine. But I think that they were right not to stick with Keenum. And I think that in this situation, if the Vikings, continue to rely on high variance type play and end up in the playoffs as a result of unsustainable play, that they'll recognize like, yeah, I don't know about this, but Josh Dobbs, just like Case Keenum, you'll get a bag. So I don't feel bad not giving you the starting job. You'll find it, but it's not going to be with us. We're either going to go with Kirk or a draft pick or Jaren, and that already is enough of a debate, regardless. But
you're too complicated, Josh.
Yeah. So
we'll let Denver kick the tires on you again. Let's talk injuries and nerdy stat of the day right after a word from FanDuel. Fantastic new promotion going on at FanDuel that I want to tell you about. They are America's #1 sportsbook for a reason for deals like this. New customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. So if you had taken the Vikings money line yesterday, you got $150 in your account. You can find a favorite, find a -400 team, take that money line and win that way. That'll work. You get $150 if your team wins. And then when you've got the 150, you've got the whole 9 yards available for you. The spreads, the player props, over-unders, futures, alternate spreads, passing props, receiving props. So many ways to wager at FanDuel. Dozens and dozens and dozens of options at FanDuel.com/locked-on. Also download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, which is so easy to use. And bet the NFL. We're at the halfway point of the season. Get in the action now. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
Analytics fans rejoice.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
It's time to get educated.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind right now.
With the nerdy stat of the day.
Let's talk EPA, fellas. Here's my nerdy stat of the day. So, when Kirk Cousins has a fumbly day, he usually does not find ways to sort of make up for that. Like, those are lost points. Josh Dobbs yesterday loses 2 fumbles and takes a safety. So in lost EPA, he lost 12 expected points based on expected points before, expected points after the play. He was a minus 12 on those 3 plays. However, with a first down run on 3rd and 10, with a TD run, with his epic 4th down scramble, and with an additional first down run on a 1st and 10, he gained 11 yards. He added 10.85 expected points. So he was still a net minus 1.15 on some of the most meaningful plays of the game. But he almost made up for 12 lost points, and helped out too by the fact that the Falcons failed from the 1 yard line after the fumble recovery. The Falcons were so inopportunistic in that game to allow the Vikings to hang around. But this is sort of the charm of having the mobile quarterback, is that you're getting points where you don't normally get points with Kirk Cousins. And I'm not trying to make the comparison between the two, that one is better than the other. But yesterday, Dobbs screwed up several times, but it all came back in the second half. And basically evened out. Nerdy stats. Who's got one?
I can go. I'm not entirely complete with mine yet, but we were talking about Dobbs and the likelihood of turnovers, right? And it doesn't present itself all that often. Interceptions, I think his interception rate career is something like 2.1%, which is, whatever, right? It's not Kirk, but it's actually not that far from Kirk. But, it's whatever. But, he had like 15 fumbles over the past 2 years. 15. That's incredible. So I wanted to see kind of what his turnover rate, theoretically should be. And I didn't include turnover-worthy throws. That would have been nice. But I included interceptions plus half fumbles because you don't control who recovers your fumble. So I count them as half turnovers. And I did them as a percentage of all plays. So attempts, sacks, and runs. So I wanted to look at quarterbacks with at least 300 plays and looked at turnover percentage. And Josh Dobbs has the 6th highest turnover percentage of all of these quarterbacks. And this is since 2022. And the guys above him, it's not a good list, man. It's not a good list. Matt Ryan, which, absent the fact that I stopped at 2022, that would be nice, but no, it's bad. And then it goes Carson Wentz, Gardner Minshew, Justin Fields, Davis Mills, and then Joshua Dobbs. And then Marcus Mariota.
Quarterbacks there.
Yeah.
Just all backup quality quarterbacks.
Yeah, and then the next one's Jordan Love. So yeah, all backup quality. Yep.
Shots fired. That's great.
I did want to do a yards per play thing to see if I can kind of balance that, because you just mentioned, hey, does he find a way to kind of make up for it? And I'm doing this live, doing yards per play live for all of these guys. And so if I just take a look at all of those guys in yards per play, he's not good actually compared to these guys in yards per play, at least at the top level, right? Because Marcus Mariota 6.37, you ended up with Gardner Minshew at 6.39 and Justin Fields at 6.19. and Dobbs is here at 5.48. So of the high turnover guys, his yards per play is whatever.
Yeah. Not having a running game is going to hurt that too. Unless are those just plays involving
on their plays.
Right? Oh, okay. Got it. All right. So there you go. You already balanced it out.
I was really hoping to bust out Dobbs' PFF running grades, broken tackles, yards after contact. I don't see them up yet. In fact,
I was trying to stall for you, Luke.
Find them. Maybe that'd be great. So I'm going to wing one here.
Other Luke,
bust them out. Bust them out. Here's what I was going to wing. Taylor Heineke.
Just my nerdy stat. Luke, bust him out.
Hey, yeah, go ahead, dude. Hey, dude. Go ahead.
I can buy you more time. I can do mine.
Not okay. All right. Go ahead.
Super advanced analytics here. You guys aren't ready for this level of advanced math. Ivan Pace. He weighs 231 pounds, or at least that's how he is officially listed. Gets a sack bowling over Drew Dalman and Chris Lindstrom. They weigh 300 and 307 pounds respectively. So Ivan Pace bowled through 2.62 times as much human as he is to get that sack. And both of those guys ended up on the ground. I know the angles weren't quite perfect, but that still rocks. Ivan Pace is a cannonball made out of gunpowder.
Was this the play that like stretched out wide to the left and he had to contort himself around bodies? Is that the play you're referring to?
I don't think so. No, it was It was a sack. He just blitzed and split a double so hard that both guys fell over.
Ah, yes. And he had the other play that I'm referring to, I think on a running back, where he worked through traffic, and picked through
like a toss play.
Some body. Yeah, like he hit him with a shoulder to slow him down and then got blocked down to the ground and still grabbed his legs. It was sweet.
He like missed the tackle but recovered. It was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it was sick. Luke Inman, what do you got? I'm looking at him now. This is a good nerdy stat. What do you got?
92 PFF rushing grade for Dobbs, 75 yards after contact, and 7. Don't shortchange him. 7 forced missed tackles. Pretty impressive for
7 is nuts.
7 rushes for 7 rushes. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's nuts. 10.7 yards after contact per attempt.
Unbelievable. 4 rushes of his 7 went for over 10 yards. Unbelievable.
Put him a running back.
Pretty good day.
This is my add-on to this. I just went through week by week. That is the highest quarterback run grade.
Wow.
All season.
Wow.
Sure.
Wow.
All right. Yeah. No, I'll take it.
I was gonna wing another one.
How many rushing attempts? 2, 3? How many actual times did he rush?
7.
Well, okay, so
7.
Designed rushes, it says 2.
2.
Oh, that's what
designed
rushes. But 7 rushes.
But 7 total, 7 total carries.
Let's get it, Josh.
This is the one I was going to wing. Taylor Heineke was pressured only 10 times, completing 1 of 7 passes for 9 yards. No first downs. Also suffered his only sack of the day. I don't have the blitz numbers. Again,
let's look at that.
Can do that. I thought
it was
the blitz numbers.
I was going to say
for Heineke.
It felt light, but it was effective outside of, and we all know what I'm going to say, the ineffective blitz from Harrison Smith right into the screen to Jonnu Smith, which obviously.
It wasn't light.
That one sucked. It was like the first screen that the Vikings seem to have like catastrophically failed on this year.
Right.
Those Jonnu Smith like smoke screens actually were like the best play Atlanta had, which is very funny considering all of the narratives in Atlanta. It's like, man, I don't know. They should keep going to that because they keep getting first downs on it.
Right. But it's but like everyone's like, hey, why isn't the ball going to Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London and all legitimate questions? But have you seen the Jonnu Smith?
But like, I don't know. It's working though.
He's getting first downs.
Is it though? Is it? I knew when Jonnu Smith slipped and fell in the tunnel trying to celebrate, this game was over. They showed me they weren't well coached. They didn't come to play. They were vulnerable.
They needed a celebration coordinator.
That's what they needed. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was great.
Who, by the way, showed up big in this game. I think
like
first of all, they had an incredible tackle, but also he just forced a number of fair catches.
I can't wait to see Wednesday's injury report and see Jonnu Smith on their lower back in this practice. I can't
carrying the team. Yeah,
I can't wait.
But yeah, Najee, I would say has not been having the impact that I had hoped. But this is the game that you were kind of like, that's the whole idea. That's why he gets a whole roster spot to himself.
The celebrations have been good, Arif. Why would you say that?
Also the celebrations, but I think he could do that from the practice squad if I'm being frank.
Andrew Booth has, I think, taken the mantle of best special teams player.
Which is wild.
Well, yeah, great for him, but he's killing it.
So for some reason, Joshua Dobbs was only blitzed on 18%, 18.4% of his dropbacks, which, like, if I'm Atlanta and there's a guy that showed up like off the street, essentially, like 5 days before, no chance he knows the plays, no chance he has an ability to effectively communicate protections in a way that'll disguise it from the rest of the defense, right? Like, he has to go to the line and just say 5-0 for 5-0 protection. He can't, he doesn't know that, I don't know, Hawaii or poker or whatever means 5-0 protection. He just knows 5-0 means 5-0 protection,
Yeah.
right? Like there's no way he can disguise what the protection is. If he needs to change it, everyone's going to know. And they were like, we don't need to blitz into that. That would be crazy. Have you seen this guy against the blitz? I mean, which is not true. He's not, remarkable against the blitz.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you just die? Like, maybe you only had like 4 or 5 blitzes in your game plan. I don't know, use all of them. What are you doing, man?
It would probably be Bradbury who's making those adjustments. So he would be yelling out the right words, and
right,
Josh Dobbs just wouldn't know the protection, which I guess is fine.
Right. So Kevin O'Connell said after the game that obviously Bradbury is taking on an enormous amount of the protection calls, but they were communicating. Dobbs did have to make protection calls because he just has more vision, right? And so he's seeing what's happening at the edges. And so he has to communicate with Bradbury, who then has to communicate with everybody about those protection calls and about those blitzes. So do it. And also just like make Bradbury work for it. Like, okay, yeah. Bradbury's taking it. Great. That's smart. But like make
David Quessenberry work harder. Like,
yeah, right. Just blitz the slot corner, right? Like just do it. So they only blitzed up like 80% of the time. The Vikings had a very low blitz rate of 50%. Like Luke said, it feels light. But yeah, I believe it was their second lowest blitz rate all year, which I think the prior week something like 40-some percent.
There was 37 against the Packers, which is kind of crazy.
Gosh. Oh,
which is like point, that outside of the Vikings is the league leaders average.
The course of season, by the way. Yeah.
And we're like, just 37?
37%. You all right?
Yeah. At some point, Taylor Heineke's got to stop getting these opportunities. That Taylor Heineke is not a quarterback you want to entrust your, ask to save your season. 5 of 15 on throws beyond 10 yards.
They were
turnover worthy. He just not.
Dude, from the game plan, game plan wise heading in, Taylor Heineke is going to give you an opportunity or two to turn the ball over. And he did. They cashed in on that. Byron Murphy. Poor Cam Bynum, man. You go back and watch this film, and he's doing all the hard work to get himself in position to go make a play. And he should probably have even more turnovers than what he has now, which is wild because he leads the team in interceptions and tackles, I believe, after this game. I'll have to tally everything up. But he did coming into this game. But Heineke, man, just that journey. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if they put in Ritter back in, because they're still, even after this loss, right in the thick of that AFC South division. And this game coming up versus the Saints is going to be so huge, because with that loss and the Saints beat the Bears, the Saints are now in the driver's seat in the NFC South. They're 5-4, tied with the Vikes, 5-4. Obviously, the Vikes have the 7th seed. Saints right now hold the 4 seed because they're obviously in the driver's seat for that division title.
Vikes a half game out of the 5 seed.
Yeah.
And only a game and a half out of the NFC North leads, and with the Lions at a bye. We've got 2 minutes left. Quick injury chat. Christian Darrisaw, all indications are this was a 1-week thing, precautionary. I guess he was moving around pretty well before the game. I think they just didn't want to push it. Justin Jefferson, though, the Schefter report did not sound like a lock he's returning. Any gut reaction on Jefferson? Is Jefferson back this week? What do we think?
I don't think so. The initial way that they were talking about it coming out of the injury was that it would take a little bit longer than 4 weeks. So I'm not shocked that this would not be something that would.
4 to 6 is a pretty normal injury timeline for a hamstring. 4 is on the short end of it. So yeah, if it's any time between this and then, maybe I wouldn't be shocked if it took all the way to the bye. A lot of people are saying he's going to just sit out the whole season. I think that's asinine. Once you're 100%, you're 100%, and a hamstring's not going to keep you out the whole season. But I wouldn't blame the Vikings for being just abundantly cautious with the guy they're in an active contract negotiation with.
Yeah, you look at the track record and history of an injury like that. Like Luke said, 4 to 6 is usually what you expect. So it wouldn't surprise anybody if they didn't want to rush him back quite yet. And then in his absence, I guess we all thought we were getting Jalen Naylor back yesterday. We didn't. I got to assume they get him back
close, yeah,
because
he's back on the active roster. So
exactly, yep, yep.
So
maybe
Naylor,
N'Keal Harry,
Tristan, Naylor,
Tristan Jackson.
I would
Sam,
say-
you haven't mentioned at all. Tristan Jackson, clutch moment on a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, he's one of my guys. I had a few guys. I mean, my real guy was Thayer. I mean, Thayer was one of my stalwarts. And then who was our guy?
Malik Knowles.
Malik Knowles.
Never forget.
Knowles was the original guy.
He didn't even make it to camp.
I think he's
on the reserve. Hey, he's on the reserve. He's
they
on
still
the
have
NFI.
his rights. Yeah, he's still in the building.
Oh, they
He'll get a
do?
ring.
Oh, I thought they waived him.
I think they got him back. I think
They
they
waived him earlier before cut down days, so that is true. But yeah, he was injured. I think he's waived injured, so he's on injured reserve.
Hey, remind me what the timeline or timetable on Marcus Davenport when he went down. What was that? 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that?
It was like week 3.
Was that
I think
Bears game?
No, it can't have been week 3.
No, he played in.
It was the Bears game, was it not?
Bears game.
But the injury
down in the
itself,
Bears game?
What was the initial kind of timetable to return? Or is he
from the original injury or the latest injury?
Latest injury.
Yeah. I think it's
he went on IR after the Chicago game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's missed 3.
He's got one more at least.
And that could be with the second ankle injury, that could be more than.
Yeah,
I guess I didn't know if it was like an
severity
8-week injury. I couldn't remember at that point. If it was season end, I didn't think it was season ending, but I couldn't remember as well. So,
yeah.
okay.
I think you almost have to not count on him at all. And then if he comes back, surprise. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Man, I feel like we left some meat on the bone, but that's all for today. We'll be back on Thursday with Ron Johnson joining us as well on the Minnesota Football Party. You can find our audio in the Locked On Vikings feed, the video on Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube. Check out the 24/7 YouTube live stream. I know those everydayers like to stay locked in at all hours of the day. For Arif, Hasan, Wide Left Substack, Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings, Luke Inman, the postmaster, the postcast master. I'm Sam Ekstrom on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Thanks for watching today.
Postmaster General, that's what you call him. That's the nickname.
Postcaster
That's
General.
Yeah, there you go.
Put it on my tombstone, baby.
There we go.
Love it.